While living in Birmingham, England, American author Washington Irving wrote one of the most creepiest Halloween stories ever written, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. Published on March 15, 1820, in the 6th American edition of the Sketchbook and under the pen name of Geoffrey Crayon, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow is set in a town north of the Hudson River in the 1790s. A very strange-looking schoolmaster from Connecticut, Ichabod Crane, competes with the town bragger, Brom Bones, to win the hand of the lovely Katrina Van Tassel, daughter of a wealthy farmer. While attending the Van Tassel Halloween party, he is told the story of ghosts and goblins, in particular, the Headless Horseman, the ghost of a Hessian trooper who got his head blown away by a cannonball in the Revolutionary War, and is condemned to ride his black steed until he finds a head. And while returning home, Ichabod encounters the Headless Horseman. My exposure to this story came from the 1949 Disney film The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, which uses two works of literature but puts them together in an animated film. The first one being Kenneth Graham's The Wind in the Willows, narrated by Basil Rathbone, which was a pretty decent segment. The other, Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which was by far the better segment. Internet sensation The Nostalgia Critic described this segment as the epitome of a Gothic cartoon. Never have I seen a terrifying story so beautifully animated and beautifully executed. And the strangest part is that it's narrated by Bing Crosby. Like the original story, it starts out very sweet, and then up until the end, when it becomes a scary dark ride. The scene with the Headless Horseman just terrified me, and is still one of the best pieces of character animation next to Chernabog and Fantasia. Other versions and interpretations followed, but I always thought that Disney got it right. But in 1999, famed director Tim Burton took on the story using his dark and creepy Gothic style, inspired by the Hammer films from the 1950s to 70s. To play Ichabod, Burton casted his buddy Johnny Depp, who I thought was a really good choice. To play Katrina Van Tassel, Burton casted my favorite modern actress, Christina Ricci, an actress who has the most gorgeous set of eyes God has ever given a human being. Some of Burton's previous collaborators played roles in this film: Jeffrey Jones, Michael Gough, Martin Landau, and Christopher Walken as the Headless Horseman. That was weird. Both the sets and costumes are just wonderful. Rick Henriks won an Oscar for art direction, using the look of German Expressionism in many of the sets. I also have to mention that it strays very far from the book. For example, Ichabod is a detective, not a schoolteacher. The Horseman is kind of debated of whether or not he was real or if he was a prank done by Brom Bones, but in this film, it's the real deal. Also, the Horseman has his head cut off by his own sword instead of a cannonball, and a few other things, but still, this film was a critical and commercial success when it was first released. I really like both movies. The Disney cartoon is kind of like the book, and Tim Burton's film is just a creative film version that's based on the book rather than a literal interpretation. It's also the only film version of the story where you actually see people getting their heads chopped off. So on Halloween night, get these two movies and turn out the lights and hold on to your heads when watching this horrifying story. Thank you for watching, and happy Halloween.